Nice. Nice.
You're in the gym after this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I gotta train legs. I skipped yesterday.
I wanted to hit back.
Back is normally my Wednesday. Yeah. Oh, boy looks good on the tube.
Okay.
Oh, we just play around here.
Some good lighting in here.
Yeah, I like the lighting.
All right, guys, we are rolling. So whenever you guys want to go ahead and start.
Okay, we're gonna start right now. We're
Take it
rolling.
away.
Great.
Okay, hold on.
Up. Audio's working. Everything. I had an audio moment over it in Cool. I'm gonna start now. All right. Thank you guys for coming here. Honestly,
Thank you for having me.
this.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is I had just gotten back from Canada last weekend, visiting with Greg Doucette. So I definitely want to keep the ball rolling with the momentum that we've generated within the natural bodybuilding movement, but also applying it to health and wellness, nutrition, and beyond, just self improvement as a whole. And I see this as that progression. To me, the stakes are a bit lower because obviously Greg Doucette was like a high profile individual that I really had to like dial in on and go like, okay.
Well, you've never met him in person either, right?
I had met him once at Zoo Culture.
Oh, okay.
And I pitched him the idea about this natural bodybuilding movement and documentary. And he was very receptive to the idea. And we stayed in contact ever since then. Great guy. Not how he comes off on social media. He's very down to earth, very grounded, and very responsive because we stayed in touch for like the last 6 months while I was basically generating the funds in order to fly out there to meet him and sit down with him. So I'm very grateful for that connection. He's a great guy. And in relation to you guys, the stakes, like I said, are not as high. So I want this conversation to be chill and just an opportunity for us to reflect on our brands and basically have a better understanding. I want to walk away from this conversation having a better understanding as to what our brands are and how we're actually presenting those brands to the general public. So with that being said, who would like to start as to what your brand is?
I don't mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah, wait. First off, Adal Gutierrez.
Oh yeah.
Orlando Lovato.
Yes, sir. Pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
So I guess I'll go first. My brand is FR Meal Plans. It's EHFAR, which stands for Everything Happens for a Reason.
I like
I
that.
definitely believe that everything that happens in life is like almost predestined, or that there's a reason behind why everything happens. It's just we got to tap into that. And for me, health and wellness is something that I wanted to personally do just because I have health issues within my family genetics, and also it's something that I enjoy helping others. And there was just too many signs that led me to believing that this is happening for a reason. Even when I break down like my prices and everything of that, like it magically, like when I did like the 18 meals for 200, I divided that together, and that's 11.111111. I'm a big guy in numerology.
Okay.
So it was kind of cool. Like I didn't mean for that to happen, but it did. So it
Love
kind
that.
of instilled like everything is happening for a reason, and to push forward into that. And I've been excited. It's been nice to already have the belief within myself, and now seeing other people have the belief behind me has been very motivating.
Love that. Love that. Adal.
So I am the founder of PB Crisps. PB Crisps is not like other protein bars because PB Crisps are all like handmade. When I looked at the protein bar market, when I started getting into fitness at like around 16 years old, I'd always played sports, but now I was starting to get into the gym, kind of walk away from sports a little bit and really just focus on myself as an individual, looking at maximizing my potential, improving my health, and getting in the best shape of my life. I was really dissatisfied with the not only the taste, the quality, but most of all, like how the things that were marketed as healthy food, things that was marketed as like macro friendly, just how bad they made my body feel, my digestive system. And once I started getting deeper into nutrition, researching ingredients, understanding how food is made, that's when I started to realize just how bad these things were. in terms of quality
Right.
ingredients, you know, and artificial sweeteners, all of those stuff. Now I'm like, okay, no wonder it makes me feel like crap when I eat it. This
Mm-hmm.
is not actually real food. It's
Mm-hmm.
not healthy food. It's not real food whatsoever. So with my products, the goal was to make something that not only keeps in line with the being macro friendly, but brings in quality and taste and the deliciousness of actual real food that's prepared fresh. I think last time we talked, we were talking about craftsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's something that's been lost in a lot of industries. When we look at businesses, they try to maximize, you know, profits. They try to maximize production to sell as many things as possible, and they never really care too much about the quality of what they're creating. When I think of luxury, when I think of something that's premium, they're not trying to sell as many as possible. In fact, they try to sell less and less, so
Right.
the batches are smaller. Like when I think of luxury cars or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
I think Porsche, Lamborghini, you know, Bugatti, these people
Mm-hmm.
that make 10, 15, 30 cars at once and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But they try to make the best cars possible. That's
Right.
what I want to do with health food because I believe in optimizing real nutrition with real food, real ingredients, things made fresh and made by hand. So
Beautiful.
that's what's different.
I love that. I love that. And I'll go third. I would say that my brand, which is what I'm attaching my name to, Sean Fury, the brand that I'm creating is called Exceed, Exceed Fitness. And the design for that brand, or at least the mission statement, is the promotion of the pursuit of being the best version of yourself. And it doesn't just apply to health and wellness, but it does get factored into it. And I would say that the concept, before I actually dived deep into this pursuit, was understanding that if you take an individual, let's say David Goggins, who actually does have a name in this market of self help and self improvement, and individuals within that stratosphere, they present self improvement as there's like a certain tone, like a mindset, discipline, hard work, grit, struggle, effort, life sucks, get with it. And the reason that I've become so passionate about what it is that I'm doing and this message that I'm trying to promote, it's because in my experience, I've never really been able to relate to those individuals who are creating this perception that in order to pursue the best version of yourself, you have to struggle in order to achieve it. Instead, from my experience, it's always been the minute that I decided to quit my day job, which was 2 years ago back in 2023, I have had nothing but great experiences. I've enjoyed every single day ever since I made that decision to pursue my passions. And I feel that it's almost my responsibility to remind others how much fun you can have just by deciding that this passion is the thing that you want to focus all of your effort and attention on. So I feel like that's really the purpose of my brand. So what I would like to do with you two is get a better understanding. So we've already clarified what our brands are, and we have a basic understanding as to why we invested in these individual brands. I would like to better understand how we're presenting these brands to the public, and if there's any way that we can better refine our message and our product, and have it be more comprehensible.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So content, social media,
Yeah.
how is that going? Feedback.
I'll start. I really like your strategy of redefining what, you know, in terms of natural bodybuilding or redefining what is achievable naturally.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that same, like I want to adopt that strategy relevant to my industry where I want to change the standard, the perception of what is healthy food. Because I
Mm.
think a lot of people will look at healthy food at a face value of like, look, this is macronutrients,
Mm-hmm.
rather than looking like what's actually in the food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how is the food prepared? How is it made? How does it taste? How does it make you feel?
Yeah.
Are to me far more important things than having the most optimal macronutrients. You know, not that those things aren't important,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to redefine the perspective.
Yeah, you make a very good point, because when you're picking up a protein bar and you're talking about the uninitiated or even the initiated who has had all this type of experience, with, it's like, let's say they're actually in the fitness world
Mhm.
and they're bodybuilders or what have you, and they're on the run and they're at 7-Eleven and they have to grab something very quickly to get out of here, and they're grabbing a barbell or Lenny and Larry's protein cookie. fuck what's on the ingredients.
Yeah,
You
right,
know,
right,
they're
right.
just looking at the macros. They're thinking about, okay, this is protein, this has carbs. Let me
Mhm.
get out of here because I'm running out the door. And I do see the limitations of that, because
Yeah.
if we're looking to promote health and wellness, then what you put on in your body, specifically the ingredients that you're putting in your
Mhm.
body, that plays a factor beyond just macros.
Yeah, and there's even studies to show the way that you perceive food, like your emotional state or your state of mind when you
Hmm.
eat food changes how your body digests the food. So that's something else too,
That's
which
deep.
is definitely like a more like mental spiritual thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like essentially we want to change the narrative about what health food is, what's achievable naturally. Because I think we talked before about how when we're discussing health and wellness, where does, taking steroids fit into that?
Mm.
You know,
Hmm.
other than like hormone therapy or things like that
Yeah.
for people who absolutely need it. But that's not what the fitness industry is promoting right now.
Yeah.
The fitness
Absolutely.
industry is promoting the exact opposite: is get as big as fuck, just get as big as you possibly can, do whatever it takes, rather than achieve what is naturally what your body's naturally capable of,
Hmm.
achieve what um is actually um gonna get you to longevity, right?
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, so it's not focused on longevity, it's not focused on how you feel.
Yeah, and one thing that I've noticed within the industry, and I feel like I've only really been a part of the industry for a year or
Hmm.
two at the most, is that very similar to just the general public, there is an emphasis on convenience and
Oh yeah.
speed, quickness.
Yeah.
How quickly can I get the desired body? How quickly can I, look good when I take my shirt off?
Hmm.
They're not thinking about longevity, even though that is the main emphasis of health and wellness and the fitness industry. It's supposed to be about longevity and health and
Yeah.
wellness. But when it comes to the actual individual who's being introduced, they're thinking about how quickly, how can I collapse my time and get this vision of what I want to look like as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And then you realize that it becomes most about convenience and less about the actual purpose or the philosophy behind integrating yourself into the fitness industry.
Right.
And I really feel like with the three brands that we are committed to and that we represent, all three of us actually do offer a level of convenience within the realm of health and wellness
Hmm.
that still promotes longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, like, that's exactly what both of us are doing. Like, it's kind of our responsibility as, food manufacturers to make sure that we're not feeding people crap and
Hmm.
hiding that underneath, the labels,
Yeah,
hiding
yeah,
that underneath the branding,
yeah.
And so I think that's why I truly believe in making the branding actually look transparency. So that's what I want to really incorporate is transparency, like you're saying about honesty.
Hmm.
That's something extremely important to me.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm super excited about is like I'm gonna end up being my own testimony because one thing I have noticed since I have been in the fitness industry for such a short amount of time, I have already noticed that people don't care about what things are being prepared, how they're prepared, how
Mm-hmm.
they're
Hmm.
grown, or how they're raised, and they don't understand like the longevity in that. But I feel like my journey, thankfully, is gonna be a testimony for my product of being like, hey, caring about not using any seed oils, caring about everything being organic, things caring about being grass fed or things being wild caught or free range and how that affects your body. Because exactly what he was saying
Absolutely.
earlier,
Yeah.
that whole thing with digestion, not only do you want things to eat clean, but you want your body to absorb these nutrients properly.
Mm.
So then you can maximize whatever it is that you're consuming and your body's not having to work extra hard just to break it down. Because
Right.
whenever there is certain things that will not absorb all the nutrients appropriately. And to show that, like how you said with the convenience and the quickness, like a lot of people think like, oh, abs come from doing a bunch of crunches and doing sit-ups and all of that.
Hmm.
But I feel like my own journey is just going to continue to be my own testimony that like within 8 months I was able to lose 65 pounds and now have abs without. I rarely do abs, to be honest, and I
Hmm.
rarely do cardio, but a majority of that literally comes from dieting and sticking to that and being committed to that change. Because you can do as many abs as you want, but if you're not eating right, then
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm really glad that you said that, because the thought that occurs in my mind when you're speaking is that I feel like as brand representatives, it's our responsibility to prioritize the things that are supposed to matter,
Hmm.
like what you mentioned, grass fed, and making sure that the food that they consume is digested properly and it's all the right stuff, like very similar to you. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to the goals or motivations of the general consumer,
Mhm.
maybe it's not really up to us to refocus them and instead cater to the fact that they're looking for convenience and cater to the fact that they're looking for like a quickness. Obviously, we can still promote the emphasis of longevity, but when it comes to the selling of our products and services, we should cater to this desire for convenience and cater.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
we're
know,
not going to be able to work around it and try to convince people that, hey, like, you know, you should really spend the extra, 6 hours cooking
hmm
your whole meals if you don't have the time. You
exactly.
know,
Yeah,
people are always going to look to the convenience, and we just have to work with that. You
exactly,
know,
exactly.
But the beautiful part of that, though, is getting them to get started on that and doing the convenience. Naturally, a byproduct is that they'll feel the difference. And whenever they try to go to something that is not as
hmm
clean, not as refined, then they'll be like, oh crap, like there actually is like importance into what he was
Exactly.
talking about before, because you don't want to jam a bunch of stuff down people's throats for them to like learn about. They just care about like, hey, this is what I want and this is what I want to get. But once they try the product and are able to experience it, then through that they'll be able to, it'll be its own testimony.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that makes me think. I see a lot of people look at as like, I mean, we're kind of extreme a little bit as entrepreneurs in the health and
hmm
wellness
hmm
industry in general, right?
hmm
Fitness, because we dedicate a lot of our time, our entire lifestyle is surrounded by this, whether it's our business, our our workout plan, our dieting. And a lot of people don't look at that from the outside who are not interested whatsoever
hmm
and just kind of like, I don't know how to get started. I don't know where to start. It
Right.
looks like I'm going to have to change every aspect of my life.
hmm
But I think like what you're saying is like once they get into it and they get off a diet plan, they realize how being unhealthy is so inconvenient.
hmm
They realize how not going to the gym ruins their sleep. They
hmm
realize how not eating clean ruins their sleep,
Yeah.
their productivity, the way they feel. It is actually more convenient to be invested in your health.
Right. And to build off of top of that, so I'm my last job or my last real job, high
Mhm.
paying, I was making 90K a year, and that was back in 2023. It was a corporate environment, working as a property or community manager.
Mhm.
And I saw the individuals, my coworkers, who were, I'm not going to say committed to the lifestyle, but I will use the word resigned to the
Mm.
lifestyle and the daily routine of, eating snacks in between in order to like kind of self soothe. And you could call it emotional eating because I think at this point all adults have an awareness as to like what they're supposed to be doing in order to like promote
Yeah.
health and wellness on longevity, and our brains have kind of shut off. I'm talking about the regular person.
Mhm.
We've shut off that avenue because we understand that if you're going to commit, then it is a commitment and you have to do everything precisely. And the minute that you eat a chip, oh, you're a piece of shit. And let me just continue eating these chips and forget everything I would, committed myself to at the beginning of the year, the New Year's resolution kind of thing. And I think that the real hurdle for people to overcome is that initial step. And I think the solution is making that step
Mm.
easier, you know, and encouraging individuals, listen, if you don't want to cook these healthy meals, we have meal prep options that are affordable as if you were spending the money going to the grocery yourself and like actually preparing these items. Same
Yeah.
thing with your product. It's like this is the healthy alternative to eating something sweet and tasty. Instead of going out and getting a cupcake, you can actually have something that actually fuels your body with protein and carbs and like the essential nutrients that your body needs,
Mhm.
as opposed to just putting junk in your body.
Right.
And then
Right.
when you apply it to me, my whole thing is that my goal with the planet is to see as many individuals as I can actualized and pursuing and becoming the best versions of themselves. And I understand that the obstacle to get there is allowing people to understand that it doesn't have to be hard. I think that turns off a large percentage of the population, this concept of like, in order to pursue my passions, I have to suffer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never suffered.
I get you.
It's just like the minute that I made the decision to pursue, it's just been meadows.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key point, is making everything a lot easier for the consumer, because a lot of people don't have the willpower, unfortunately, to push through and do the things that are hard. So the easier that you make it for them, the more they're going to want to continue. And then once somebody builds the habit, then it becomes something that becomes easier.
Yeah.
But you want to help them get to that point of
Yeah.
where the habit building starts.
And then, I'm in the sport of bodybuilding, as you both know, and bodybuilding is all about progressive overload. So you come into the gym on day one and you're curling a 5-pound dumbbell. And then maybe a week or 2 weeks later, you're curling a 10-pound dumbbell. And then you go into 15 and 20, progressive overload. And if you use that strategy or method and apply it to literally anything, health and wellness, starting up a new brand or an entrepreneurial endeavor, and you do progressive overload that way, you focus on the baby steps, and then over time, they accumulate into something much larger. So, what I've always promoted is simple is supposed to combat easy.
Mm.
If you have a simple solution, focus on that first, and then from there, you develop a better strategy.
Yeah, I get you. I want to touch up a little bit about what you were saying when it comes to like self-soothing with food.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that we can really kind of play on, I guess, like as food manufacturers and you as well. I fundamentally believe that when someone like this is I'm speaking from personal experience, but from what I've talked with other people who have been in bad shape, have been in bad health, have felt, depressed or things like that. There's kind of like when you're in that area, it's more like a numbness rather than like a deep
Mm.
pain and sadness.
Mm.
It's kind of like an ignorance. You feel ignorant to the joy, the euphoria of feeling comfortable in your body because you've never felt like that before. If you've never been in the best shape of your life, you can't really fathom how great it is to feel, clean. Like when you're clean eating, you've never had abs, and you can't really fathom what it's like to look at yourself in the mirror and feel, wow, like I feel great, rather than just feeling like,
Yeah.
it's the same dude like looking back at me who's just not so happy. But it's just kind of like this ignorance to the bliss that you
Yes.
could be experiencing. And so that's why I think it's kind of hard to get people to understand just how much of a worthy investment this is, health and wellness, especially people who are looking on the outside.
I
You know?
agree. I agree. And one thing that I've ran into in my career within this industry, people ask me like, "Oh man, isn't the dieting super hard? Like, I commend you on your discipline." And my response has always been, the dieting isn't hard.
Mm.
Operating in a caloric deficit is not hard because I'm attached to the vision that I have in mind for myself once I actually reach the desired end goal.
Yeah.
So I think that because and I'll give myself a pat on the back for this strength. It's that I have a very good skill of seeing the end product before it's actually materialized.
Mhm.
And it's not just my physique. It's like if I want a certain life or a certain reality for myself, I visualize it very clearly. I spend the time. I'll spend hours or days or months or years or decades visualizing the outcome that I want. And then once I see it very clearly, wow, I'm just having a great time.
Yeah.
It's like,
But would you say any of that is also like, not to go a little deeper,
Mhm.
but would you say any of that is from life experiences of having to do the hard things even when you didn't want to, and you had to push through those times, and it's something that you've learned that when you do dig deep and you go through the grit, that you have seen the reward, and it's something that becomes like a domino effect, that like you start to embrace the fear, or know that like if you face the fear, that you're gonna come out on the other side in a positive way?
there was a brief moment when this was 10 years ago, and I became aware of my enormous potential to affect the world. And the day that it happened, it was crippling. I was crippled with fear because I just saw a mass of people all just staring at me, and it was like very like uncomfortable.
That's vivid.
Yeah, yeah, it was strong.
Okay.
And I actually kind of broke down a little bit. That lasted a day. So to answer your question, I'm not the perfect example. There are other individuals that have overcome struggle and overcome hard times. I'm not the one for that. Who I am, and I will always speak honestly about my experience of life. The worst day that's ever occurred to me, and this is just me being completely transparent, it was the moment that a woman said that she was pregnant with my child and that she was keeping it because it robbed me of my agency.
Mm.
It was something completely outside of my realm of possibility. I thought that nothing happened in my life that I didn't want to have happen. So the minute that this child that I was not expecting was coming into this world, completely outside of my control, it was very humbling, and I have changed as a result. Now I understand that things can happen outside of my control, and I am adapted to that. And I'm very grateful for the experience because he's a beautiful child, and he fills me up with joy and maturity and understanding as to like, yeah, this is a part of life, and I'm very grateful for that. But that's my big moment of, wow, you know, that things can happen. I would say that probably for you, you might have a different experience of life,
Yeah.
and you should use that.
No, and I actually just had a conversation with somebody the other day. Is like you should be very thankful for all of your experiences in life because the
Hmm.
cool thing about that is everything you've gone through, no one else will ever be able to go through the same thing. They may try to copy your style, they may try to replicate what you're doing, but your life experiences make you who you are. And when you own it, that makes you, how we're talking about, like your most authentic self.
Hmm.
And people will be able to relate better whenever they see or hear something that you may have gone through or you're not trying to hide or something that you're not trying to be ashamed of, and you're just like, hey, that's part of my story. It doesn't define who I am now, but it is part of my story, and that makes me who I am to this day.
Yeah, yeah. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to the promotion of our brand, it really is just telling a compelling story. And what is a story if not focusing on the human element,
Mhm.
the experience of life that we're all going through? So it's important to us as content creators and brand representatives to tell our stories, the experience of our life in a relatable way for people to consume and understand and say, listen, I can relate to this person's story and their mission to create a more convenient life for me that also promotes health and wellness.
Yeah. I I relate to both of you guys. I feel like both perspectives of life are
Hmm.
actually very relatable because I
Hmm.
feel like it's not like hearing what you're saying. I feel like it's not a just it's just your experience of life and that's it. You never experienced the other side. You absolutely have. It's you kind of we kind of all go through stages. I was talking to my friend Ant yesterday about the piece of advice that you gave me about just having fun. I was like, I told him because we were talking about business. He's a business owner as well, and he was telling me he's like, yeah, man, I remember when my business got really really good, and then I kind of just got complacent,
Mm.
and that made me recall a time where I remember starting my business, and I remember starting it just for having fun. I really didn't even have intentions of starting a business. I was just having fun, creating my own recipes in my
Hmm.
kitchen, and somewhere along the line of realizing that, oh, I actually want to pursue this and create a real brand, start scaling, see where this takes me. I'm having so much fun doing this. Somewhere along the line, I got caught up in the work and the stress and the noise of it that I stopped having fun.
Mm.
So by the time I started to experience more momentum and more success, I was kind of like, oh, finally, I can break. I can have a break and
Mm.
relax, forgetting that I was doing this because I wanted to. I was doing this because I had fun.
Hmm.
And then during that period of where that momentum kind of stopped and I was in a very difficult time, that's when I was like, oh, I did that to myself. I really created that experience because my resolve was tested. My resolve of why am I doing this business in the first place was tested again because I forgot at one point in time. I forgot that I was doing this for the passion, for the purpose, because of how fulfilling it is to me, because of how much joy it brings me. And now that I found that, but combining it with the entrepreneurial skills that I've gained
Hmm.
through the hard times, through the mistakes I've made, combining that with all of the lessons, and now feeling this fire and this passion refueled in me to just actually have fun doing what I'm doing, starting this business from all the ups and downs, all the difficult parts, if genuinely feels like I needed that experience of feeling a struggle
Hmm.
so that I can really feel like I'm having fun now.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I agree. Something similar, like, of course, I have fun doing what I do, but it's more of the enjoyment I get actually from helping others,
Mm.
just because the whole reason this journey started was for me. Like, yes, I dabbled in it before in the previous life just because I love cooking and everything, and I've done it previously. But then when I realized that it would be beneficial not only from this, but the outcome of what I've done, struggling to deal with divorce, having a child, trying to go through life changes, being separated from family, like kind of being on my own and overcoming all of that, and at my age of 34 and still getting into like the best shape of my life.
Mm.
It's a testimony that anybody is capable of doing it, because if I'm capable of doing it, it means anybody is, and I want to help people to realize the power within themselves.
I love that. I love that. And honestly, I think that's a really great segue because one thing that I'm really focusing on is I want to take myself off of a pedestal, even if it's a perceived pedestal created by myself or the general public. And I want to create a level of equality amongst everyone. And I would really like to get some feedback from you too, because some feedback that I've been getting from individuals when it comes to my online persona is that I've created this perception that I think very highly of myself, branding myself as the greatest natural bodybuilder of all time, being the Michael Jordan of natural bodybuilding. It creates something of a distance between myself and everyone else, putting myself in this really, like I said, pedestal. In my mind, everyone has the potential to be the Michael Jordan of whatever they choose to invest in or commit to. However, that message doesn't seem to be translated over to online. And I'm wondering how to do that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think we've touched on this before in conversation about how can Sean be more relatable in the sense of like how can Sean Fury's message of peak human potential and being the best natural bodybuilder
Mm-hmm.
in the world actually be something that the average person can feel like this is a journey they want to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when we watch a story, when we listen to a story, we kind of always look for ourselves a little bit
Mm-hmm.
in the characters.
Yeah.
And if you're the main character here in the documentary,
Right.
in this journey,
Right.
how are people gonna relate to this guy who has ambition and drive that unlike any they've ever seen? I get what you're saying, like it comes
Mhm.
off almost as arrogance
Yes.
in a way,
Right.
even though it's not necessarily.
In my mind, it's not arrogance, it's just confidence. But
Right.
I do understand how a person without confidence will perceive what I'm presenting and go like, that's arrogance, because where's the relatability?
Yeah.
You know?
I think what's necessary, I mean, this is my mind. This is my
Mhm.
idea for this.
Mhm.
However, the execution is definitely going to be, I think, on you.
Oh yeah.
I think there needs to be a rude awakening for people to actually like believe in themselves.
Mm.
I don't think that most people can be like, "Hey, I think that I can be the best natural bodybuilder," but I also believe that, I think you could do it too. Like, I believe in you, bud. No, I think people actually need like a rude awakening. Like you're wasting your potential. You don't believe in yourself whatsoever. You have no self-confidence, and that's why you are in the place that you are because of your decisions. Because of the place that you put yourself in. You struggle because of you. You struggle because you don't believe in yourself. You struggle because you don't believe you're capable of these things. You're not ambitious, not because you're not capable of being ambitious, because you just don't believe in yourself. And it's kind of on you. It has to be a rude awakening in a way.
Okay.
But it's not to say that like you suck. It's to say like, hey man,
Yeah.
you could do better.
So here's a big question that I pose to both of you,
Mhm.
because I've only had this singular experience of life, and I've always been ambitious. I've always thought I was the cat's meow, going back to age 6. I've always thought
Yeah.
I got great things
Yeah.
destined for me. Did other kids feel like that? Like, did other kids have dreams?
I think we all did, right? As kids. And then somewhere along the line,
So what happened?
I don't
What happens? Somehow like life knocks on the door and taxes, and you get a girlfriend.
yeah, summer taxes.
And all of a
yeah.
sudden, like, the girlfriend's the best part of your world, but also she complains when you don't pick up after yourself. So like now you're in the doghouse, and it's like, oh, I gotta get right with my girlfriend. What about those dreams I had when I was 12?
Man, you're
Fuck.
relatable now. For sure. I'll tell you that. You're real relatable
You know
now.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think the distractions kind of overload us, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, those things, when we had such an abundance of time and the ability to think about things that aren't right in front of us, that's gone now. That
Yeah.
opportunity's gone, and now it's all about what's pressing. What's pressing on our minds to focus on.
I think a really good way to reframe confidence is like childlike imagination, childlike creativity, right? Because I think that's what we all had. And so whether you call it ambition or confidence in yourself, being able to believe in yourself that you can do something, I think we all kind of felt like that as a kid. Like as kids, we thought we could fly. You know?
Still do.
Yeah. So maybe gravity was the one that thing woke us up.
What
But,
about you?
So kind of, I guess, like kind of the conversation that we were having yesterday of like the reason I'm doing everything now is also in turn for my childlike self, my past self that has
Yes.
gone
Same.
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
struggle, that has gone through hardship, and I just want to make myself, my child self, proud. I want to show myself that like those dreams that I did have, those ambitions I did have, the opportunities that I missed weren't for nothing, and that I'm more than capable of being something to be proud of, something to be um just something that I can carry myself with confidence and know that I'm great. And I think having that belief separates some people in a good way, because having that self belief that you're the greatest, or that you're so different than everybody else, it helps to manifest
Of course.
towards your dreams and ambitions, and
Yeah.
helps to add that drive, because unfortunately motivation can only go so far before it kind of hinders you and discipline has to kick in.
All right. So now I want to present the contrast between what's going on in our heads, you can call it our imagination, and reality, which is everyone else and everything else. Okay. So if you're walking around thinking, well, you just use my brand for an example, the brand of Sean Fury. I'm the greatest natural bodybuilder in the world of all time, period, bar none. No one's ever done it better than me. Right. And I'm walking around with that. Reality comes up and says, no, you're not. Now it's about me and my ego and deciding how to interact with this truth of a person saying you're not the Michael Jordan of natural bodybuilding. Do I crumble and go like, okay, I guess I'm not. Let me go off and stop this pursuit, or do I take that as fuel and, like you say, motivation, and use it to actually strive for
Something
greater?
bigger.
Yeah,
And touching on that, I think like almost like Kobe's like a perfect example, just
he's a great
because
example.
like obviously his first year he did great, but it wasn't like his best year, but he still believed that he was the greatest. And him believing that, I believe, is what motivated him to keep working hard. He's like, all right, I may not be on paper the greatest right now, but I know I'm going to be the greatest. And let me continue to work hard to show you that I am a force to be reckoned with. And it's like you see the finished product, and that's why for you, you're like, I am the greatest, because you know your potential, and maybe it's not envisioned with everybody else just yet.
Right.
But once you get there, no one's gonna look back and be like, oh, I didn't believe in you. Everybody's gonna kind of be like, oh wow, like he truly did
Yeah,
it.
and I think this is where it gets a little tricky, because I can go back all the way to high school, freshman year, and I'm telling people that I have aspirations of being a movie star. And then I remember a specific memory. There's another actress in my class, and she's talking to someone behind my back saying he doesn't understand that it's never going to happen for him. He doesn't understand that, like, how difficult it is. And it's like, it's one person against millions all wanting the same dream. And like, it's just not possible. And I remember hearing that, and I'm like age 14. And instead of letting that truth, because she's speaking her truth, instead of letting that filter into my subconscious, I just thought how sad it was that she has such a limiting belief. Because any belief that you're attaching to me, you've got to attach it to yourself, because that's all it is. It's a projection of your own doubt and insecurity. And in that moment, and I reflected all the way up to age 33, where I am now, it's like, how can we address that? Because it's not only the individual who is saying that I'm not going to become a movie star, it's also that same person who's saying that she's not going to become a movie star. How do we address that individual? Because you're fucking it up for other people who don't have my level of confidence, who want to be something great, but when they hear you saying that it's never going to happen, they allow that to
Dude,
stop them.
That's a bomb drop, man. That's a bomb drop to say that like anybody who doubts you is doubting themselves.
Of course.
That's a bomb.
Of course.
Like,
And
that's a rude awakening I was talking about.
yeah, and what I'm trying to say is that not only are they doubting themselves, but they're also making it more difficult for individuals who don't have that
Yeah.
level of
Tenacity.
and that level of self-belief.
It reminds me of there was like a clip of an interview with Michael B. Jordan. The interviewer, the reporter,
Oh,
was
yeah.
like someone he knew in high school.
Yeah.
And he's like, Michael B. Jordan, like, you're so successful now.
Yeah.
Like, tell us what your experience in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, like, do you remember me?
Mhm.
And he's like, oh yeah, I remember you. You're the one that said I'm the weird kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember.
yeah.
I didn't. She's like, no, no, we're just joking. We're
Yep,
just
yep,
joking.
yeah, I remember that.
But it's
Yeah,
like, nah, you fucked up.
very
And
very
Look at
similar.
me now.
Mhm.
and learning to weaponize that, I think, is key, just because any type that you can add to pushing yourself forward and proving that you're capable of anything. So, like, for instance, there was somebody in my past that we kind of had like a friendly bet that, like, oh hey, like when I started this journey, I was like, oh, by this X time, I'm gonna have abs, and then they're like, oh yeah, right, just blah blah blah, and like kind of like what you said, sometimes people are doubting them personal selves because they've tried certain things to achieve it. So just because you're further back, they're like, oh, well, since they kind of hold themselves to a higher pedestal, they're like, oh, well, if I can't do it, like you can't do it.
Yes.
And to me, that was the most gratifying moment of kind of being like, I don't know, just should always believe in people. You should always believe in the people that are around you, your colleagues or your friends, because I don't know, it's just
Well,
I think reality checks can come from reality checks like come organically. Like you like let's say you want to be a movie star. Like we don't need naysayers to like realize, okay, maybe there's more to this journey, more work, more sacrifice required, more talent, more skill required to this, whatever it was, whether it's movie stars, um,
anything.
entrepreneurship,
Basketball,
exactly, basketball,
NBA.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. The reality check comes no matter what. If that's not what's suited for you.
Mhm.
But what I found in like my personal experience and all the stories I hear, whether it's like Dwayne Johnson wanting to become an NFL star, didn't happen, right? Because he messed up his knee or was it his ankle or
I
something
think it was
like
an
that.
injury, yeah.
But look at him now; he became the highest paid actor of all time, and that's nuts. Like no NFL star would even cross that level of
Right.
legacy.
Yeah.
Um, and that I had that same experience, of like the naysayers, which came very close, and that like I said, that's when it hurts, when it comes from people in your close circle, whether it's
Mhm.
your family or your best friend
Yeah.
saying, "I don't know, man, I don't know if you can do it. Like, are you sure? Like, pick something else. Just pick something else."
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know, like I trust this person, I love this person. Are they looking out what's best for me, or are they just doubting themselves too because it didn't work for them?
Yeah, and this reminds me of a story that's not mine. Are you guys familiar with Frank Zane? Frank Zane. He's some people call him like the godfather of aesthetics.
Mm-mm.
The Sultan. No, that's Flex Wheeler. Godfather of aesthetics. Like
Mhm.
so, he was the most aesthetic physique ever. He was during the golden era. He was competing against the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Mike Menser and Robbie Robinson, all those individuals. He's won the Mr. Olympia 3 times. So I watched his little documentary on YouTube. It was like 47 minutes. And at the end of it, the reason I'm telling you this story is because Joe Weider, who is basically the father of bodybuilding, and he brought IFBB to prominence, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was the face of bodybuilding, yada, yada, yada. All this was meticulously planned out by Joe Weider because Arnold Schwarzenegger had the charisma and the drive and the ambition. So he chose Arnold as like that guy. Plus, he had a great physique.
Mhm.
Frank Zane, however, is honestly the antithesis to Arnold Schwarzenegger because what Arnold represents so far is size, mass, and uh, you know, just huge proportions. Frank Zane focused on creating symmetry across his entire body. And he did have a smaller frame, but he wanted to build that frame up through having a really great aesthetic physique with deep cuts and lines. And basically, it's like a study of geometry when you look at his physique. You just see all these different shapes going on just because of that. That was his specific intention. The thing that I thought was interesting when I watched this documentary is at the end of it, he said during his bodybuilding journey, no one believed in him. No one thought that he had the potential to reach the heights that he ended up achieving. He got the most prestigious title in bodybuilding 3 times, and not a single person during his journey supported him and thought that he could do it. Now, when you take a look at that story, you have to understand that that is a very unique perspective and it's a very unique belief system in comparison to the rest of the world. How many people are moving through this world with a belief of what they can do that isn't being reinforced by the external world?
That's tough. Not a lot.
Not a lot.
and going into that, I feel like it's kind of pulling back into like that self awareness of what you are capable of and not allowing others' experiences become
The
like
truth.
your belief
Yeah.
system.
Well, how do you like? What's like? How do you?
Huh. It's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
For
Uh,
me, I guess what that took for me is like you said, like not letting past experiences hinder you. I had to really accept that I am not the person I used to be. I'm not my past. And a lot of people will label you based on like where you are now or where you
Mm.
have been, the things you've done before, said before, and let that hinder you and define you forever. But I don't I think that self-awareness has to come from what do you decide defines you? What actually does define you? Is it your actions, your words, the past experiences, the things that you used to do? Those things can all be indicators for your future. You know, if you were always ambitious, you're probably still going to be ambitious, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think deciding that the only thing that defines you is who you say you are
Mm-hmm.
is really what's necessary.
Okay. Okay.
and I would kind of also say something else of like, yes, I do believe like if you've had a certain um, personality before, it can translate into the future. But I think as us humans, we're so sophisticated that we are completely available for change.
Absolutely.
Like you are completely to be able to be somebody that you no longer were. Like you can change who you were and become something and reinvent yourself. Just because for me, um, everything that I've gone through in my life and the things that I've done, I was a completely different person growing up and through all the hardships and struggles that I pushed through. It's something like I would never have believed that I'm the person I am now. And I'm glad that I didn't let life experiences
Mm.
jade me. I actually embrace that to be like, all right, I need to keep changing because if not, I can keep going down this path. And I've had to reinvent myself and I've had to look so deep inside and face these challenges and kind of almost like apologize to myself for not believing in myself.
Oh
I
yeah.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
All right.
It's deep.
I got a good question for you guys.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me a time when you felt your spirit was at its weakest and most brittle.
Mm, getting it all out there.
Mm-hmm. Because I think there's something to this. I think there's a connection between a person's self belief
Yeah.
and the level of it in relation to how their spirit feels in relation to the specific moment.
The peak experience of where we are now,
Mm-hmm.
where we were before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, that's a deep one. It's
Yeah.
tough.
You want me to go first? I'll go first. I'll go first.
I guess for me, um, I've dealt with certain things as a child that like I don't blame them now. I've forgiven them and just dealing with like I guess abandonment from my parents at like an early age. Like as a child, like you're supposed to have your parents as like something to lock into and feel like a base. And when you don't have that, you almost feel lost. And uh, learning to forgive was the greatest thing I've ever done. And it's allowed me and my mom to have an amazing relationship now. And knowing that she did her best whenever I was younger and that doesn't make her the person she is today. Like, and whatever I've gone through, whatever I've done, doesn't make me who I'm the person I am today. Is to be able to forgive yourself, you have to be able to forgive others.
Oh
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
yeah. The kind of spoiler of this is that it genuinely feels like my entire life has been a journey of evolving my idea of what love is, and evolving my experience of love. And where that originated from is from a very young age. My parents had a very difficult marriage, um, all the way up to before, during, and after their divorce. As a middle child, I was definitely kind of stuck in the middle between them, trying to understand both sides and dealing with both of their personalities, whatever, you know, emotional traumas they had from each other being inflicted onto us as children. That was really difficult. And what it created is this sense of burden within me as a child, feeling like I was the cause of their problems.
Mm.
Like, as in, there wouldn't be so much friction in the marriage and the family
Mm-hmm.
if I wasn't there. And it felt like, during a lot of my younger years, I was definitely seeking the love from my parents, And it wasn't until I was on the brink of ending my own life
Mm.
at like 12 years old, where I was really feeling my weakest spirit, that I realized that maybe I can love myself and feel the validation and the love that I wanted just from within rather than from without, through my parents. And I think that was the day where the kind of whole idea of external validation died.
Mm.
And I think we're going back to what we were saying about how to have that self awareness and that self belief that you can really do anything. It really began in that moment, of realizing that I'm much happier only caring about what I think about me,
Mm.
rather
Yeah.
than focusing on what others think about me.
Yeah. I
And
love that.
yeah, it allowed me to actually forgive them for the way they made me feel and forgive myself for feeling the way I did and start to begin to heal my relationships. And then from there began the journey of evolving my idea of what is love like? What is love? And that changed a lot of my relationships, like my romantic and intimate relationships as a young child, my experience with women,
Mm-hmm.
that evolved over many years into now I'm experiencing love and creating this brand centered around love, centered
Mm.
around unity, which is the divine purpose that I want to embark on in this life. Going back to the whole world hunger thing.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'm seeing a commonality here.
Mhm.
So I'll do my weakest spirit moment just to bridge it all together. The moment that I felt my spirit was at its lowest was the middle of 2023. I had just gotten a promotion at the beginning of the year. $90,000 a year, like I mentioned, and I was really on a high horse because this project, this movement, take natural bodybuilding out of it and just replace it with the movement of actualizing individuals and having as many people as possible achieve their peak form. I knew that I was like, okay, I got all this money coming in and I have allocated free time to, spend on this movement and I'm going to do all that. And that was at the beginning of 2023. And then the job that was paying me, all of a sudden I had to fire two of my subordinates and I inherited their workload. So I went from basically my workload tripling and I kept it up for 6 months. And, 6 months into it, I was just done, depleted. I had no energy, and I was at like my lowest so far as feeling spiritually enlightened or awake or whatever. Right. So I say all that to say, once I had that realization that like this sucks, I got to get out of this situation. I made the choice to quit the job, which I did at the end of the year. I saved up as much money as I could so that when 2024 rolled around, I would have some savings and I'd be able to focus on what I actually came to LA to do. It would seem the common thread that I'm seeing is we all made a choice.
Yeah.
There was a choice that related to us climbing out of a hole where we didn't feel like we were spiritually evolved, and we made a choice to feel differently about our circumstances and to actually change it in a way that we could actually feel more like ourselves. So perhaps presenting that choice to individuals and letting them know there's something better on the other side of this feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree because even now I relate me not taking care of myself or not taking care of my health or my wellness is almost like me abandoning myself again. And that's why like now I'm choosing to keep going through with changing my lifestyle, eating correctly,
Mm-hmm.
becoming the best version of myself because I want to protect myself and be like, hey, I'm not going to leave you. You may have been left before,
Mm.
even like with divorce, like it's another form of abandonment. And it's just like at the end of the day, you can't control what others are going to do, but what you can control is how you show up for yourself.
I love that.
Amen. Yeah.
And honestly, that's also something I would like to emphasize. We're all in the health and wellness industry and we're promoting longevity and how to take care of yourself physically and mentally and spiritually and all that stuff. And that's all wonderful. However, there's an individual out there right now who weighs 350 pounds and he loves eating McDonald's every single day. And he has not a care in the world because he knows what he's looking forward to when he goes to sleep and he knows what he's getting when he wakes up in the morning. And I really want to suggest that there's nothing wrong with that existence because we're all going to die.
Yeah.
we're all going to the same destination at the end of the day. The only thing that I want to propose to individuals is if you're not having a good time, you need to change something.
Yeah. I that reminds me, like we were saying earlier, about like I think people in that existence, it's like they're like, well, there's nothing wrong with what I do. I like it. It's my body. And like, who
Mm-hmm.
are you to say what I should eat?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
screw you. You eat what you want. I'm gonna eat what I want, right?
Right.
And that's fine. Like, it's not for us to judge the way they live, their lifestyle,
Right.
their choices. But on the other hand, we're also kind of like, hey, we understand, but this feeling of like being comfortable in your own body, like we were talking about, seeing your abs, like things like that, that's a feeling way better than McDonald's. Honestly, it's a feeling of fulfillment, of joy, of euphoria.
Mm-hmm.
You know, honestly, of like feeling that level of comfort in your body. Um, because I think most of the time the people who have that kind of extreme tendencies of like whether it's like overeating, like you said, it's emotional eating.
Right.
It comes from an emptiness.
Right.
You do it out of emptiness. You do it to hide or fill a void, and you make that filling that void the life purpose rather than something else greater, grander.
To be honest, one thing that like kind of popped into my head is like, yes, like you shouldn't pass judgment on others,
Mm-hmm.
but one thing though is I definitely feel that we were created for this life for greatness.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
forgot who said it exactly, but there's a quote that I always remind myself of is it's a shame
Socrates.
Socrates, I already know
Yes.
this one. Yeah.
for a man to not see how far he can take his mind and body because
Yeah.
your body and mind are one and the same, and the more you can control your mind, the more you can control your body, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't think everything was divinely created for us just to enjoy life. I think it was created for us to face these things so we can grow our spirits and so that we can move forward with that. And you can't do that if you're not challenging every single part of your being.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think for the individual who does like to eat McDonald's every day and is putting on pounds and is walking around at 350, um, I guess my perspective is if he has the full awareness and all the education and he can see, or maybe he's experienced it, maybe he did have abs 10 years ago
Hmm.
and he knows what it's like. He's like, yeah, I don't like it.
But comfort's like a drug, to be honest.
That's true.
Yo,
That's
wow.
true. That's true. Yeah.
That's powerful.
I think it's just a matter of in my opinion, that guy would be an anomaly because he's had the experience and he chose against it. But to empower each individual with the information and the knowledge and the convenience of our services and products and to offer them and make their lives simpler, I think that's really where our mission comes into play.
Helping people grow.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so going back to social media and how we're actually being presented, I want to propose to you, I'd like to get some additional feedback. So when I was over in Canada meeting with Greg, and he understands the mission quite clearly, which is to bring natural bodybuilding to the level, actually to surpass enhanced bodybuilders and actually present a face of the fitness industry that is actually natural. My desire is to be that face. His opinion was that I was not lean enough to actually affect this change. Because in his mind, if we're going to have a natural bodybuilder who is like the face of the industry, this person needs to be shredded year round and presenting this physique that is like so desirable and potentially unattainable, but just good enough for people to be like, okay, this guy's natural. I believe him, but look how disciplined he is. Look how great this person is. From my perspective, that's not really the message. I feel that the message is the pursuit of passion and achieving greatness and excellence within that pursuit and in that journey. But it doesn't have to translate to like being shredded every single day of your life.
And I would like to touch on that just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, in my experience, I've tended to get more clients the better of shape that I have looked, just because unfortunately humans are not all completely self-aware. And so unfortunately there is times where people are more vain or more like thinking that, oh, if someone looks like this, then like that's like the most desirable thing, and it's like, oh, I want to do what that person's doing. And unfortunately, just like you can have a car that like maybe super fast, but if it doesn't look as great,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be as harder to like want somebody, even though it may be like the fastest car, it's gonna make it harder for someone to want to support it. But unfortunately, when something is aesthetically pleasing as well, it's just human nature to gravitate towards it more.
Yeah.
So I do think on the opposite end for you that like I've seen your physique shredded. And if there is a way to maintain that year round, I think it's only going to impact your journey even that much more.
We're not proposing that Sean's walking around at 5% body fat year round, right? Okay.
7,
Maybe 7.
8,
Yeah.
eight,
Okay.
8 on the high end.
I get you because I see what you're saying. That's very true. Like, and I feel like perhaps that might give you an edge, on gathering more attention within the industry for the movement that you're trying to start. However, I feel like the more powerful part of, actually making this movement bigger than enhanced bodybuilding is really the the communication, the branding, the messaging, the media machine that we're producing, right? The story that tells all sides of it, not just that Sean is shredded all of the time, because it's just that would be kind of like somewhat unrealistic.
And
Uh,
also one-dimensional,
a
in my
little bit,
opinion.
yeah. It would be like easier, like it'd be more eye catching for Sean, like to see like super deep cut abs, almost 8-pack all the time, you
There's
know.
go on. Go on. What are you gonna say?
I guess one thing, I guess, through playing around with nutrition
Mm-hmm.
and just doing certain things, because there is times like when you are in a deficit, like your hormones are going crazy,
Yeah.
you're feeling like anxious at times because you're hungry.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I have noticed is learning how to have that balance and like just being able to maintain where you're at. You don't have that fluctuation, and uh, bringing knowledge to people of how to be able to do that, because I feel like it is possible for people to stay around 8 to 10% or 7 to 10% body fat and not have the lack of energy or have like the I guess the
The
like
fatigue, yeah.
yeah, the fatigue, especially
Yeah.
like in the gym, like when you are like when low carbs, it's harder to get a pump and all of this stuff. But there is surprisingly a way to kind of try things in a way that will allow you to continue to keep progressing while maintaining that.
I hear you. I hear you. I appreciate the feedback. I think from my perspective, I love the movement and I love the journey. And this is year 2 of bodybuilding. Age 33, at 17, I had no clue that I was going to be a bodybuilder, because when I was that age, Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler were the Mr. Olympia winners, and I never wanted to look like those guys. They were just way too large, and I understood that you had to take steroids in order to get there.
Yeah.
And the result was like not one that I was desiring of. I always wanted to be a movie star. Why would I want to be Ronnie Coleman size, getting an Oscar on stage?
I actually really like that because I feel like if you were to like repeat that in a more concise way, like
I thought it was
in the
pretty
format of
concise.
like
Okay.
obviously, but in the format of like short form content, like
Sure.
just as a slogan, it's like almost as a slogan type of thing where it's so simple. It's like, steroid Mr. Olympia physiques are not actually desirable, and I feel like a lot of people will actually relate to that.
Yeah.
I at no point in time did I want to look like Ronnie Coleman,
Right.
or like, Arnold's a very desirable physique because like you're like, wow, like look at his chest, look at his arms. But for the most part, most people are like don't want to walk around at 250.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter how lean they are.
Well, that's what the Natty King tournament is supposed to represent. We're looking to crown the first ever Natty King, who is a representative of a peak example as to
Mhm.
what a person can achieve naturally. But the thing is, beyond that, it's not just their physique; it's what they represent internally. Who are they? What do
Right.
they like? The level of integrity and morality and ethics. Like, I want to crown the Natty King, who is a pillar of an example in all categories, not just having a great physique. So I guess when I say all that, it's to say that to me, there's a lot of pageantry to peaking your physique beyond just being healthy and like achieving a level of longevity and homeostasis. I feel like the physique that I'm currently at right now, I'm at homeostasis. It's like this is my body composition. I feel great. I feel very normal, and normal feels good. It's like after this conversation, I'm gonna go to the gym and have the right energy levels to get through a grueling workout, and then I'm gonna go and eat some food and then watch a movie. I think I'm seeing Captain America tonight. I say all that to say, it's like the difference between who I am and how I present right now, physically, mentally, and all these things. It's like when I step on stage at the Natty King tournament, whether it's in 2027 or 2030, whenever the first one is, that physique is meant to be the symbol. It's symbolic. Like that's the example of like what a human can achieve physically.
Yeah.
And like he's got all this like, oh my God, look at him. He's something to marvel at. But it's not the real me. That's a symbolic version of me. It's an interpretation. This is like peak human potential. It's not Sean Fury. That's like what we're all capable of achieving if we apply ourselves. So to me, I see a contrast between this physique and this like stage ready greatest of all time physique. And I see like to me they're both relevant because this one is sustainable. Like you don't have to touch it. Like
Right,
it's
right.
you know what I'm saying?
I get you.
Yeah. And like the car example, it's the difference between a car that can run 300,000 miles and it's really good and it doesn't require much maintenance, and like the Porsche, or maybe like a really flashy car that doesn't have as much longevity to it. I see the value in both.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I also do think now with the growing research of supplements and nutrition, I feel
Mhm.
like um there is a possibility that it is capable, because like I'm a person that I don't take aspirin, I don't take Tylenol, I do everything very homeopathic, and there are certain supplements that I feel like can aid your body into keeping it in the best performance possible as you're going along this journey. So maybe there might be for you in between.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I think I'm just being an asshole. Yeah, no, I
Sean's
need
like,
it.
I like the book. Don't take away my book.
That's pretty much the moral of
Yeah.
this. Oh man, no, you guys are absolutely right. I was just trying to challenge Greg. I didn't. He said it. I was like, yo, dude, like you're part of the problem,
Well,
dude.
I feel like what Greg is saying is operating on the assumption that Sean's physique at 18, 15% body fat is not desirable
This is
or
15.
marketable, or
Yeah,
whatever, right?
I think it is marketable, but that's just me. But
I think so too.
yeah,
You know?
I think it is.
It's like you're still fucking huge. So it's
Yeah,
like,
and also it gives us like more opportunity to focus on like the personality, the person behind
that's what
the
I was
physique.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I think that's gonna be more important because it's like you'll still have the pictures and you can still market the peak
exactly.
physique no matter where you're at, you know?
Yeah. But I like the devil's advocate,
Yeah, yeah, for
and
sure.
I think Greg's whole point is that you want to set an example.
Right.
And I think it's weird because like, all right, dialing in on the one statement that he made that I walked away thinking about is like, okay, let's say you were to be crowned the first ever Natty King, right? And you did it in all the ways that the fitness experts don't promote, where it's like you dirty bulked, you didn't do your cardio, and when it came time to step on stage, it's like, okay, now it's go time, now it's lock in. But you didn't do that like year in and year out. You didn't do that for 365 days, and you still got crowned the Natty King. Well, what message does that send?
Mm.
That's the story about great genetics.
Yes, but I think that kind of contradicts the other message of trying to promote longevity.
You're right. You're right. He's right.
Yeah.
Because you can still bulk and it still be clean. And what you're doing at that same time is, it's like putting more, I don't know how
It's
to
more
say.
stress. Yeah.
It's like balancing discipline and longevity.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where you come in handy because the
Yeah.
convenience of a meal prep.
Yeah, for sure.
The
for sure.
convenience of a meal prep. This is
Just-
all one big ad.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of which, I need a re-up. So
Well, I definitely got you.
yeah. The argument that I feel like has already been discredited, but I'll continue to make it just for shits and giggles, is that if you found your thing that you're great at, for me at this point, at this phase, greatest natural bodybuilder of all time, and like I see it, and it's like, whether I eat a 3,000 calorie Burger King meal or not, I'm still the guy, you know? So it's like, like, this meal can't stop me from
Yeah.
achieving my destiny. And I apply that to every person. Every person. It's like, if you take Michael Phelps, if you look at his physique, just look at his physique, how could you not see him as the greatest swimmer of all time? You know, he was born to be that person. And obviously he did the time. Like, he spent the hours in the pool swimming those laps day in and day out to achieve that status of being the greatest. But it's hard to take it away from him if you just look at him, you
Yeah.
know? So I kind of like think about that in relation to everyone. We're all meant to be the greatest of something. I think it just requires some awareness and some understanding and some clarity as to finding out what you're supposed to be the greatest at.
And one thing I can talk or think about is kind of almost comparing it to the Kobe thing. Like, you doing a bulk with clean food is like the equivalent of Kobe practicing the same shot for hours and hours.
Fundamentals.
And even though he doesn't want to, he knows he has to because he wants to win at whatever cost. And I think the dirty bulk, yes, it helps, but that's like moving a couple inches closer to the rim to try to shoot instead of forcing yourself to do the part that's hard.
I like that. I like his mentality.
Yeah.
Good devil's
No,
advocate.
he finds a lot of nuances in the things. Like,
Yeah.
you put an argument, he's like, no, look, there's something.
No,
There's
he's
another
right.
side to this.
He's 100%
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Might have to bring you on. Oh man, good stuff.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like the general intention of this conversation and this sit down was to see if we're all on the same page as to what our brands are and how we're marketing our brands. Do we have any kinds of questions, concerns, or reservations as to how that process or that part of the process is going?
I know that for me, I finally started to do it with my own like personal page, and I need to translate this into my fit or my meal plan page. And the marketing is I need to force myself to be more consistent with content, just because unfortunately these days it's so important to be not necessarily forcing it down people's throats,
Mhm.
but algorithms change so often that you have to continuously be posting for certain percentages to be reached. And without that, you're leaving so much, like, essentially money on the table. And I think that's like the thing that the next few weeks that I'm gonna completely like focus in on. And there's some good things in the works. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Good.
same here. Same here.
Good.
Just really looking to, I think I was talking to Sean yesterday about this actually, so I'm glad you brought it up. That I feel like the back end that we're talking about right now on this podcast, like this longer form content, and also just like sit down conversations, discussing strategy and things like
Mhm.
this,
Mhm.
is kind of like the things that like our audience is going to feed off of and kind of get attached to and actually accept and adopt our missions, right? But like you're saying, like pumping out content like that, that's kind of what gathers the initial attention, the following, right? And then once you have an audience, how do you actually nurture that audience? How do you get them attached to your ambitions, to
Mhm.
following your each and every step, each and everything that you do, and believing in you, becoming so-called fans or members of your community, people who believe in you, are rooting you on and supporting you. I think that's what we're doing here on the back end. I think what we're talking about, focusing on the content of getting people's attention, um, with our products, with the things that we're actually selling. You know, that's kind of the front end of like, how do we bring those people in the door? Once they're in the
Absolutely.
door, what kind of content, what branding, what messages are we feeding them?
Yes. Yes. Can I pitch to you guys my television show idea
Mhm.
that would relate to content and how? Yeah, I'll just pitch it to you guys.
Yeah.
You ever seen The Truman Show?
Oh yeah, love that movie.
Have you? You're
I
young.
haven't.
You're young.
No.
Dude, you need to go home and watch The Truman Show. Seriously. Well, I'll give you the brief synopsis for those
Okay.
who haven't seen it. Truman Show stars Jim Carrey. He plays Harry Truman. I think his name is Harry Truman.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I know there's a president called Harry Truman. Let's just go with Truman. His name's Truman. In the show, Truman Show, in the movie, they take a baby, and they put him in this dome, and the dome is like a big city, right? and they put a camera on him from like the moment that he was born, and his entire life is staged in this dome-like city, but he has no awareness of the fact that like this is not real.
Mm.
So like he's interacting with actors who play his mother and his father and his girlfriend, and everyone around him is all like extras or actors who are like basically feeding him his narrative as to like how his day is going to be structured. And the way that it's made inside the film is that the TV show is funded by product placement. So if he's going out to work and his wife is saying, "Hey, well, while you're gone, I'm going to be vacuuming with this Dyson 360. It sucks up the dirt within like the carpet really well. So you enjoy your work day while I'm using this Dyson vacuum to yada yada yada." Right. So my idea for my TV show is to basically take the concept of the Truman Show, only me playing Truman, who has full hyper awareness of the fact that this is a TV show. So he has a full awareness as to where all the cameras are in relation to him, and he's actually directing the scenes, uh, which is the exact opposite of Truman. So, like, he didn't know that there was a script, he didn't know that there was a narrative. In my version, I have full control over the narrative and the script, and I'm actually the one feeding the lines to the other actors as to where this narrative is going to go. From there, we would have the opportunity to collaborate with brand representatives on the show and their products simultaneously. It's like if I'm getting ready for a bodybuilding show and I have a meal prep, where am I going? Let me go in the fridge and warm up my
FR meal plan.
exactly. Man, I would really want a nice tasty protein snack. Let me hit up my boy, and
Yeah.
well, then you would insert
The PB
yours.
Crisps.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. Come on,
I
come on.
get you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And like that's the idea.
I
And
see.
from there, in the sense that the Truman Show was condensed to that one dome, and
Mhm.
it was like that own small little world consisting of like hundreds of extras. In my mind, this opens up to the entire planet. The entire
Okay.
planet becomes a part of the show. Wherever I go, the show goes with me, and whoever I collaborate with now gets integrated into the show along with their products and services.
I see.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mhm.
Something I want to talk about a little bit is I think we've talked about like natural bodybuilding, or each and one of our brands and our companies, the things that we're trying to do, the services, products, entertainment that we want to provide. I think I want to talk a little bit about how that relates to kind of like our overall like life purpose or like farthest ambitions
Yes.
for the long term of life, not just for like
Love long
natural
term.
bodybuilding is a thing for the next 10
10
years,
years.
right?
Mhm.
What's after that? Like that's what's going on in the rest of Sean Fury's life, right?
Absolutely.
For me, this company is going to be something ongoing for many years, but like once I reach a certain level of success, what's after that?
Mhm.
What's next, I suppose? Or like what purpose does this business, this company, this branding serve in the overall goal of collective consciousness? How are we going to contribute to that? How
Mhm.
does our company, our business contribute to the collective consciousness?
Yeah. Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. You
I,
could get started there.
honestly, I appreciate you mentioning it because I actually forgot to touch on that.
Yeah, no, you're good.
My general idea, 10 years natural bodybuilding. Within those 10 years, though, I do want to slowly start transitioning into the entertainment industry. And honestly, content is geared with that intention of that transition. So over the next 10 years, I solidify my status as the greatest natural bodybuilder of all time. And by the time that's done, we should have that show structured and set up in a way where it's like, okay, now we're no longer pursuing the greatest natural bodybuilder of all time. Now it's the goal of basically turning it Exceed into an umbrella company and actually bringing as many people into the umbrella to promote their brands and their stories in the same way that my brand was promoted. So if I'm becoming the greatest natural bodybuilder of all time, we use that same structure and same blueprint to apply it to a person who wants to be the greatest sumo wrestler of all time, or the person who wants to be the greatest bowler of all time. We take the same blueprint and apply it to their brand, and from there it really expands into as many different fields as you want: entrepreneurs, artists, musicians, actors, you name it.
Yeah.
And it all tells like the same story of achieving the peak version of yourself. And the peak, again, it doesn't relate to just your physical, it relates to mind, body, and spirit. Are you committed to a thing that requires all of you, all of your effort, all of your passion in order to achieve this level of greatness? So like that would be like the next step. And then from there, we it's world peace. That's pretty much it.
Love it.
Once that umbrella company is established and we're telling the stories of thousands of people all striving for their peak versions of themselves, then it goes into, okay, what political structure do we need in order to create an abundance for the entire planet?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly where I was heading with that question. Is like, how do we translate this whole idea of elevating the self to the peak potential, whether it's through
Mm-hmm.
nutrition, through
Mm-hmm.
wellness, through
Yeah.
spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
through fitness? How does that translate eventually into the collective of raising everybody up
Yes. Yeah.
into a more unified
Right. So
world?
when a person asks me, because I'm a big time thinker, I'm very ambitious, and my overarching goal is to achieve world peace within my lifetime. And when a person asks me, like, well, how do you do it? Like, how do we actually achieve that? My suspicion is that it's fear that is preventing people from basically joining hands and singing Kumbaya. It's fear. It's fear. And the contrast to fear is putting everyone, the entire planet, into a mindset of abundance. Because if you notice, if let's say you just won the lottery,
Mhm.
right? And you just got like $1 million in your bank account out of nowhere. Yesterday you had $10, now you have $1 million. It's a lot easier to give $10 to a person who's asking you for $10 when you have $1 million. So my idea, it's not necessarily putting $1 million in the banks of every single person on the planet, but it's more so creating the mindset of abundance that we do have $1 million coming to us. And then we're a
Yeah,
lot more generous and gracious and a lot less covetous of the things that belong to us,
absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
So that's the idea.
I like that.
Yeah. It's a big project, but
Oh, yeah.
I feel that with the right story and the right strategy, which is the one that I'm perfecting currently, I feel that it will work.
Mhm.
Granted, once we get to the point where we're going up against North Korea and Russia, it gets a little complicated, and
Mhm.
I am still
Figuring those things out.
yeah, because I'm really trying to avoid violence. I don't want this story to include violence.
Right.
So I have a team for that.
Is that us? Are we going in?
Hey man, if you want to be a part of the think tank, you're certainly
Oh,
more
the
than
think
welcome.
tank.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a think
I
tank.
thought you meant like marching over there, man.
No, 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 no.
So-
I communicate with people about like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
to get away from actually like terrorism
Oh,
or
there's other ways to settle things.
yeah, imperialism, things of that nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like we want peaceful resolutions to world problems.
Yeah, I think world hunger has the same solution. It's just getting people in a mindset of abundance.
Yes.
And most of like we agree, you and I, most people may not have really thought about it like this from this perspective that we do have the abundance. We
Yes.
do have the land, the water, everything necessary, all of the resources necessary
Yeah.
to feed everyone on the planet.
It's just that the powers in control are hoarding
Exactly. So it's a
the
political
resources.
problem.
Yes.
It's a political problem
Yeah.
that for some reason people don't have the access to these things, to the abundance that is
hmm
on this planet.
Yeah.
So
I think it's that whole like I'm gonna get the phrase wrong, but it's the few controlling the many, you
Mhm.
know? So like the idea is to flip it. As this generation continues to strive, and I'm a representative of this generation and our potential, we continue to age and we continue to aim towards this goal of removing these old farts from their power positions because they're going to die anyway. So they don't really have much say in it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then we basically connect on this global level and we put ourselves in charge. And now we're the ones running the show, which was always going to be inevitable
Mhm.
because that's how time works. So then it's just changing the mindset of our generation
Yeah.
to be more inclusive as opposed to hoarding all of our resources.
Want to know what I think is like one of the best things for that?
Mm-hmm.
Just reaching a level of success, but leading through example.
100%,
Oh, yeah.
110%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Just because, unfortunately, I think achieving success and living life a certain way teaches others so much more than trying to tell them how to live or how to achieve that. It's just going through within your own actions. And same thing of like when you do meet fans or when you do meet the people like this, it's always the people that are like for the most part that are kind-hearted or genuine people or are authentic that tend to be some of the greatest people, and people tend to gravitate towards that. And I think as a collective, if everybody can have that same vision of being authentic, respecting others, like treat others the way you want to be treated, is like
Mm,
at a
golden rule.
it's something that we lose sight of, but it's definitely, I think, the key for that for
Oh
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
I also, as part of the mission, but it's kind of like a side, like I want to bring superpowers to this reality in like a very
That'd be fun.
no, like I genuinely want to bring superpowers to this reality.
Yeah.
I'm talking like precognition, prescience, telepathy, telekinesis, which is a big one. That's a big one,
Yeah.
but I want to bring it to this world.
Yeah, so something a good friend of mine, Dustin, he recommended this guy, I believe his name is Aaron Abkey. He's like a spiritual teacher. He teaches basically um this message called the Law of One, which is actually
Mm-hmm.
a book um that was channeled about the universe. And one of the main messages that he talks about is the seven densities. This is something like kind of new to me overall, but basically it talks about the densities or the kind of stages of consciousness
Mm-hmm.
within this universe, that
Mm-hmm.
there's seven of them, seven being the highest, one being the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
One is like inanimate objects, two is like microbial life, animals, plants.
Mm-hmm.
Three is us, humans,
Mm-hmm.
things that are like self-aware, have their own individual experiences of life, and we somewhat believe that we're separate. And our job here is to events, whether it's in this lifetime or the next, evolve into the fourth density, um, where we have these abilities that you're talking about, and then from so on and so on, going to the fifth, sixth, and seventh, all returning back to source,
Mm.
to the ultimate reality of
Yeah.
creation of
Yeah.
heaven.
Yeah.
And but essentially, that no matter what we do here in this lifetime in this density, we're limited to these this third density bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that I believe kind of line up with the chakras,
Mm-hmm.
the third chakra, where we are essentially trapped within these physical bodies with these certain like physical limitations, but we can evolve spiritually and psychologically to the next density where we have the things that you're talking about.
Mm.
And we are capable of them now, but it's just much more difficult for us because we're trapped in these bodies in this
Absolutely.
lifetime. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I absolutely believe in that. And I think doing things like that would massively, massively shatter beliefs about what we're capable of.
Well, yeah, I think I mean, at the end of the day, especially based off of this trip with Greg, where he was willing to give me my natty status for no other reason other than the fact that I speak very passionately about it,
Yeah.
I was able to fill him with belief. And what I'm starting to notice based off of that is like at the core of, I think beliefs trump fact.
Mm.
I think beliefs trump evidence. And I think evidence can support a belief, but if it doesn't and the person's belief is stronger than the evidence is presented, they will default to the belief.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to that, I'll tell like a very, very quick story of when I was first going through my spiritual enlightenment phase, and that took about 3 months. There was a belief that I came up with that I was the smartest person on the planet. And I believed it. I was like, wow, I'm the smartest person on the planet. And I moved through the world thinking that I was. I would get headaches and I couldn't sustain the belief because I was trying to like photo read and do these like high level math problems in my head and I couldn't do it. And the way that it works is like, listen, if I'm the smartest person on the planet, then I should be able to do these math equations in my head because the smartest person on the planet can. And I failed. So the belief just didn't line up with the truth that the reality was presenting to me.
Right.
So then I replaced that belief with I'm the most powerful being in the universe. That belief is way more sustainable because what does that even mean? How does your brain make that make sense in your head? However you want it to,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more malleable of a belief.
I see.
But it goes back to the belief system. You want to create a powerful belief within your head, apply it to the entire planet, and then all of a sudden we're living in a state of consciousness that is profound.
Oh yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're putting that energy, those thoughts, those words, those actions. If you live in that state,
Yes, and that
putting all of
belief
that out there.
and that belief is shareable because if I'm
Oh
the
yeah.
most powerful being in the universe and I'm human and everyone else around me is also human, then we are all the most powerful beings in the universe.
I love that.
One thing though, I would like to add to that, and I guess for like our audience, something that you can take is practicing meditation with I am affirmations on in the background, just because sometimes when you're alone with your thoughts, you're your worst enemy, and having something in the background just validating that you are great and that you are the best is something very powerful, because once you do have that belief in your mind, you are capable of greatness.
Yeah, and there's ways around negative self-talk. Obviously, and again, I'm not the perfect person to coach a person out of thinking negatively about themselves because It's very rare that I ever have in my entire life. I'm not the type of person to think bad about myself. But there are ways to, like you say, positive affirmations. If you sit down maybe 10, 15 minutes out of the day and you give yourself positive affirmations, that's meant to combat negative self-talk as you move throughout the day. There's also certain things like NLP, neuro linguistic programming. It all tends to, you create positive interactions. Like you want your reality, the things that you interact with on a consistent basis, to be positive. So then it creates a loop of you believing good things about yourself.
Yeah.
So actually, this is kind of circling back into what we were talking about earlier. So in your body, there's tends to unfortunately be like worms and stuff that are like, or these microbes that feed
Mhm.
off of certain things that send these signals to your brain, whether you to be happy or to be sad. And talking about longevity, if you do dirty bulking
Mm,
the bad way,
preach.
or
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
countering like that positive, because whenever you're doing that, you're feeding those bad like microbes in your body that are going to send these signals to want more or to doubt or to be like to settle. And I think that's why it kind of all encompasses. The more that you focus on this one thing, the more it's going to translate to all other
Yeah.
aspects.
Yeah, and to build on that, it's like we're always creating habits. So if your habit is to pursue the best version of yourself, that's the habit that you're creating. The alternative habit is sitting down and doing nothing and watching Netflix and eating chips and ordering DoorDash and shit like that. That's also a habit.
Yeah.
So you get to choose what habit you want to commit yourself to. One of them is cooler.
Yeah. One of them sounds more fun too.
One of-
What current skill or thing that you do currently that stops you from doing negative things?
The mirror. No, I'm kidding. No, honestly, I locked it in. So 10 years ago, when I embarked on on the journey of spiritual enlightenment, and I did a lot of meditation. And once I learned that all behaviors and all thoughts are belief driven, once I was able to understand that, in fact, I came across one YouTube video that changed my life, which was the route to superintelligence or universal intelligence is achieved through self belief. Then it just became super clear. If you just believe a thing, that will be the truth. Now, people do come up against me and they say, some of the thoughts that you have are delusional. You being the Michael Jordan of natural bodybuilding is a delusional thought. You being able to achieve world peace is a delusional thought. It doesn't matter, because what do I believe? I don't have to believe what a person tells me. My belief is stronger than the truth that might be presented to me. And it just goes back to, it's like, Greg Doucette believes that I'm natural. I could have just lied to him the entire time. I could have been a convincing actor. Greg, I really want to promote natural bodybuilding and I want you on my team. And I don't understand why you promote that everyone's a fake natty. Greg, do you think I'm natural? Yeah, I believe you're natural because you come off very passionate. I could have been lying to him this entire time, but he believes that I am.
Yeah. When you said that, I was a little confused. I was like, so he doesn't think you're natural because of your physique, but he thinks you're natural because you say you're natural?
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's convenient, but I
It
was
is
like,
convenient.
that's not a real analysis.
It's not how it should go.
No.
No, it shouldn't. But again, it goes back to the belief. So if we understand that the belief trumps everything, it trumps reality and truth. Let's stick with that and then work to create a better reality based on the belief.
Mhm.
It's crazy. It's fucking crazy even saying it out loud.
No, I get you though, because you have to think outside of linear space and
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and it's like if you don't, then everything is delusional.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's nuts.
But you also have to look at it from the perspective. If you look at it from the past, most of the things that exist right now were once delusions.
I know. I know, bro.
Your cell phone is a delusional
Yes,
thing
I know.
50 years ago.
Or like, look at the Wright brothers. I mean, we could
Yeah.
go on. Like, no one said that.
So
like,
are they delusional?
Yes, of course they were. Of course, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the
Absolutely,
point.
man.
You know?
So we're all delusional for now.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah. Until it becomes true.
Absolutely.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think this is good.
No, I think this was a good conversation. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not good at wrapping these things up because to me it's always happening in the moment, and this is just an ongoing conversation.
Oh yeah.
So thank you for tuning in. This is Exceed, and I'm looking forward to being a part of this journey with you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. This is dope.
Fuck yeah. Cool.
Whew.
Nice. We went places.
Oh yeah.
That last
Alright,
15 minutes.
That was the test. So we're gonna do the real one.
Oh my god.
Forgot to hit record.
Nah, he's fucking
I'm just kidding.
around.